Hello, 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 Rise and Thrive Together community. Here we are. We are pre recording this episode for you for Monday, July 3rd, 2023. And we are so excited to have this episode. We had so much happening in our last episode on just touching like the tip of the art of communication that Raquel and I said, let's go and continue this conversation about, the art of, you know, having a conversation and what does that look like when we bring it as we rise and thrive together in community. But first off, I just want to say hello to everybody. Remember to keep on checking in. We will be watching your comments. We will be reading those comments. We will be writing back to you. So make sure that you are commenting on what you hear, some ahas, some insights, some like, no, girl, we're going to tell you something differently. So bring it to us. Follow us on our Facebook page, Rise and Thrive Together. Follow us on our YouTube, Rise and Thrive Together. On our Instagram, Rise and Thrive Together. And definitely when you're watching it on Roku TV under the Laws of Life with Blanca. And then make sure you add that channel for Rise and Thrive Together. So, hey, sis, are you ready to kick this conversation off?
I am. Hi, everyone. So excited to be here with you. Happy 4th of July early. I hope you guys are having a great time or will have a great time with family, friends, barbecue. If you're vegan with vegetables, whatever. We don't want to leave anybody out. We hope you have a fabulous time. So excited. So, sis, are we going to share some news or not yet? We're going to keep them in suspense.
Ooh, sharing some news. Well, I think you can drop that bomb right away because when you talk about the art of communication, I'm curious right now that you just said, hey, we got some news. And I'm going to just say, because we spend a lot of time on mindset, that's what we're about. I'm sort of like, tell me now, please, please. I'm like a little puppy ready to be like, give me my
Hmm.
treat. You know what I mean? So that's where that is for me. And I feel that, this audience has been, incredible for us, our supporters. And one of the things I'm going to say that I pride myself on with regards to the art of communication is about celebrating when it
Okay.
comes to the mindset of gratitude. Number one, gratitude for attitude and celebrating. And so, yeah, man, like let's celebrate. Why don't you drop this news to them?
I'm super excited to tell you guys that Rise and Thrive Together has its first sponsor. Woo! Super excited. We will keep you in suspense though about the information and who it is. And don't worry, it's coming. But we just want to say thank you to our very first sponsor. We appreciate you so very much. Audience, we appreciate you all the time. Like Reg said, drop your comments, even though this is pre recorded. We still want to hear what you have to say, and we will most definitely respond. Sis, let's kick this July 3rd episode off on communication. What are we talking about? Where are we going with this communication stuff?
Well, I really thought last week, our episode was pretty powerful thanks to our good friend Chris and the beautiful way that you kind of shared about how conversation comes and arises through first what's going on in our minds and being able to kind of what I got out of that, how you so beautifully read the room, right? You read the room. You're not someone that just walks into the room and just blurts out anything. You were there for a very specific purpose and you were also new. So, like, you took your time to read that room, kind of listen to what the conversation was happening around, and noticed your own mindset and was able to kind of say, I can go, like you love to say, pivot to the left, pivot to the right, and then really get yourself straight with the
Mm.
real talk, which is something that I so honor you about. So in my communication, I get to honor and acknowledge my sister over here, someone who truly is out to really move the conversation forward. And if there's something that she's unclear with, or, wants to kind of maybe educate, right? Because we're about educating, empowering, and equipping each other as a community. And I feel like that really, was came loud and clear for me last week. So
Mm,
I'm thinking of, we're now a week later, and we're into this episode for me right now on right before 4th of July.
mm,
And I think that's interesting for me because I'm going away, it's why we're pre recorded. I'm on my way on vacation with my husband and my daughter to visit some family members on my husband's side and some chosen family members on my side. And I feel like the holidays, like whatever the holiday is for someone, if it's a holiday of celebrating the 4th of July or a reason to get together, there tends to be some high intense conversation. Add some
mm.
alcohol and, but let's just take away the alcohol. So I'm curious on your thoughts with this upcoming, time off that most people, if they celebrate it or they don't, are having off and tend to get together in gatherings. And what is your experience, or what would you like your experience to be with regards to, conversation and the people you're going to be with during this time?
That's so funny. I'm going to be with the same people I'm always with, my parents. It's always just us. My parents and I don't tend to do big, blown out barbecues. Nothing wrong with it. We're just not, that's not for us. If a friend has a barbecue, we go over, and it's great because it's a family barbecue. It's something what I consider small and intimate. And that's what I like, because then everyone gets to really and truly engage in conversation, get to hear about what other people are doing. You may not have seen them for a while, and really and truly understand that it is about family and it is about community and communication. And all of that seems to take place. And like I said, it's usually just my parents and I. They grill, I I eat, and then we may play some games, may play cards or whatever. But for me, I value and appreciate that time with them. I don't care if it's just the three or four of us, right? It doesn't matter. It's not the amount, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of time, the quality of the conversation. That's what is most important to me. Now, you will be away. You'll be with family, in-laws, hopefully, maybe get to see some friends. What would that time look like for you?
I think it's a beautiful question, and it's why I put it out there. So we will be seeing family members we haven't seen in a long time, and Lexi, being at that beautiful age of almost 7, who is excited to share about everything. And I'll give you some of the things that Regina needs to work on, right? Because we get
Mm,
real here. My daughter is chatty like me. We like to talk. That's why Raquel and I are together. And it's why I raised a daughter just like that. So going into family members who I haven't spent time with in a long time and seeing those cousins and everybody else, it's super exciting. And when I
mhm,
get very excited to see people and I'm not present, my daughter will start sharing something, or I will start sharing something, and we'll finish each other's stories, which tends to be cute if you're 6.5 and my 6.5-year-old comes in. It's often happens between my husband and I. It's something that he reminds me of.
mm,
And depending on where my mindset is, he will stop me and, might grab my hand, touch my shoulder, or even just say, hold on, I was telling the story.
Mm.
And that is something that I'm telling myself on to the audience. Because when I haven't seen someone and I haven't seen you in a while, and there's a story that's being told, I'm just so in the emotion. We talked about that last week, right? You said we're feeling emotional people, and that takes over, and then the mouth
Mm.
just blah 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 blah, and that doesn't give the opportunity for Lexi to express herself. It doesn't give her the opportunity to be with the room and have her space. I feel we are all integral parts of, when you're in a community, and each one of us has our leadership styles. I tend to be a very strong personality, that. And so I wanted to put that out there to see if any of the audience feels that way. Have they ever been in a room with someone like me? Or maybe you have been in a room with me. Please throw me underneath the bus. That's okay. Because I truly believe that when it comes to the art of communication, the only way that I'm able to grow and that I can rise and thrive with you inside a community is to like have someone let me know what I'm doing. So I'm going to very
Mm.
much be very mindful, and I'm going to practice, and I'll come back to let you know what the results are. Less is more. I'm going to
Yes.
listen. I'm going to be like you from last week. I really, really listened to that show again, and I was very much like, yeah, read the room, allow people to like just give their love, receive it. You don't have to say anything because actions do speak much more louder than words.
It's interesting because I was about to ask you, what are you going to do about the fact that you take a conversation and you keep it for yourself? What are
Mm.
you going to do? Because it's nice that Josh will tap you on the shoulder, grab your hand, something to signal you that it's time to dial back just a little bit to hear from others. But when Josh isn't there and it's just you, what are you going to put into practice to dial it down yourself and recognize that, hey, I'm doing it again. I'm taking over a conversation.
That's really great. And that's something that we were just having on our talk with the podcast that'll be coming out in July, right? One of the most important things is, like you said, it's a practice. So really having, and I love to journal, so I'm going to be able to walk away from here, from this show, and I am taking my journal with me, and I am going to be writing this out and speaking this out loud, because I've been doing a lot more of that into my life, which is waking up, first giving myself gratitude to God, gratitude to myself for another day, and be able to say, hey, look at myself in that mirror and say, hey, today we are going to be present. Today we are going to listen. Today we are going to listen and speak less. And that will be like, the more I say that out loud and the more I write that pen to paper, the more it does get ingrained inside of me. And,
Okay.
that will be from now, like literally starting now, not like the day of, because we all know building a muscle takes time and time and time practice. So that's starting tonight and into tomorrow, all the way through when I'm on the plane, all the way through. By the time I feel, based on the way I structure myself and, having these in place, I will be ready. I will be ready. Now, the other thing I like to do is tell myself. So I've just told everybody, I've told on you, sis, and I like to have accountability partners. So Josh will be aware. My daughter will be aware. My daughter is in on this. I don't just surprise stuff. I will ask Lexi. And also, you and I communicate a lot. So, right out there, be able to, we'll wish each other a happy holiday. Love to have that happy holiday. Hey, sis, are you working on your practice?
Oh, I'm going to phrase that a totally different way. Let's have that conversation. I'm like, Regina, shut your mouth. That's it. I'm sorry, y'all. This is
She's not sorry.
me and who I'm not. It's gonna be shut your mouth, because it's really important that people talk about we have two ears because we should listen twice as much as we speak. And I'm like, that's great. And that's something I had to practice too. My friends would call me and talk about something that's going on in their life, and there I go. "Bleh, I got it all. I got it all. I can tell you everything before you even finish." I think y'all call that already always listening, right? And I had to learn because one of them told me, let me tell y'all how I learned. One of them said, "I didn't want your advice. I just wanted to vent." And I'm like, "Oh, you can't unring a bell." It was already too late. So that took me back. It's like, one, you don't have all the answers for everyone. Two, you need to stop the foolishness. And three, respect people and say, "Hey, are you listen? Do you want me to listen to give you advice, or do you want me to listen because you just want to vent?" Now, being in a room with people, because I started practicing that from a long time ago, when that person told me, I was like, "Okay, you don't have to say nothing else." I learned to say a whole lot less. Sometimes I say so much less. I know how that sounds. So much less that people are like, "So tell me what you think." Ah, okay. I wait for that. I've learned there's something called social cues, social etiquette, and I've gotten a lot better at it. If someone has to say to Raquel, and if you know anything about me, I'm a talker. There's a reason I want to speak. I'll talk. I'll talk. But I've learned you don't always have to talk because you got this pink thing in your head, right? Sometimes you talk, but silence speaks volumes.
Yes.
Sometimes it's just to let things settle. So I'm sharing that with you because if any of that resonates, and it takes practice, right? This is not something off the bat. Y'all drop us, let us know in the chat if this is you. If you're the one that always has to talk and always has to be heard, what the hell happens to the other people in the room? They get tired of hearing your mouth. I'm gonna tell y'all, they get tired of hearing your mouth. They may not tell you, but I'm gonna tell you, they get tired because they have to share also. They have a contribution to the conversation. It's called a conversation, not a monologue.
Love it. Love
Okay?
it. I'm going to
And
throw
it's
something at you. Um, Josh and I talk about this often. So, Josh, guess what? We're going to talk about our conversation. Everything that we talk about, is really an opportunity for us to continue to build and grow our relationship. We
Mhm,
are in that same, interest of growing and developing individually and together. One of the things, and I'd love to get your feedback on this, is one of the things that he says he has struggled with is that he is very much someone who loves to hold the space of a room and really is someone who kind of walks in and, feels the room out and is
mm,
not. I'm a type A personality, right? Like I can step into the room and I can feel the room out very quickly and, move that room forward in practice now as needed, right? Not here to take over, but that happens, right? Sometimes I default to that. He says he struggles often with, he'll come in, he'll get into a conversation with people, right? All of a sudden, everybody's talking, that person's story is told, that person's story is told, there's that lull, so he has his opportunity to start sharing, and so he starts to share, adding value and moving the conversation forward, and then boom, like disrupted, interrupted, you know that other person comes back, the other person comes back, and he says it's almost like he's invisible, and
mm.
many times he's walked away, from that. And he has struggled with that in the past. I'm curious about what your take is on that, because as someone who is, really working on that balance of being, knowing when leadership to stand into that conversation and when to sit back. Have you ever experienced that? Or what would you say to someone who, might feel that way?
So let me just make sure I'm clear with it. He's in a conversation, let's say with three people standing. One person A tells this story, person B tells this story, and then when person C tells this story, no one has any comments or feedback. However, the conversation then just goes on with person A and B.
A and B kind of like just kind of jumps in and cuts off person C,
Okay.
right? Right? Like just jumps in, cuts off, and then brings it back to them and brings it back to them. So more type A personalities that like, and so what he feels is valuable. That's the same thing that they've said, and he's giving his
Mhm.
perspective, all of a sudden is cut off like that. And I'm clear, a lot of people, I have, experienced that. But again, I'm a strong personality where I have, be able to say, like, hold on for a second, person A, let me just like, I heard you, and, I want to share with you, right? Like, everybody went around, so I can say something like that. But he's not comfortable that way.
And see, for me, if being in that situation, it would be more of, okay, then let's hear what you have to say. And then where I would more listen, because maybe that person just needs somebody to listen to them because they may not get that at home. They may not get it at work. Maybe they're always the one listening, and now they have an opportunity to express themselves. So I let you have the floor. And I've learned how to do that without judging people. I've learned how to do that without making myself feel like, oh, well, I've got good stuff for them to say to them. They don't want to hear it, then that's fine. I'm gonna take my ball and go home, meaning I'm gonna leave the conversation. I'm not, because I don't know that person's situation. And I get that Josh walks away, but try something different. Try, instead of walking away, just staying there and listening. And for you, instead of wait, let me just, I might just listen. That's a good practice.
Yep.
That's a good opportunity to just listen. In that group, remember last week I talked about that woman who had a comment thing. Times there's no need for every comment. Some things you can just let it be. And we've got to just sometimes just let it be. So my question would be, why walk away? What are you getting from that? Or how are you feeling that you feel, hey, discounted, no one's listening to me? Okay, no one's listening to you, Anne. That doesn't mean you can't stay and listen to them. Are you not interested in what they have to say because they're not listening to you? Or are you just genuinely, you're going to stay there to genuinely and authentically be present for them? Maybe that's what they need. So,
So the other big thing that comes to my head is, can we agree that there is this sometimes dominant personality, right? Like someone who's just dominating that conversation, right?
absolutely.
And so, like, walking away sometimes is just like, and I'm not talking about walking away because in your head you're like, sometimes it's just like you listened, you want to participate, get that person dominating the conversation, you're clear that's what that needs to be, and it may not align, right, exactly what that is. Sometimes it's just a lot of like what you and I don't enjoy, surface conversation, so we just kind of smile and just thank and kind of move away. And I think you said it perfectly from last week, like the person who had a lot to say and
Hmm.
dominated that conversation. We also did talk about, being a facilitator of someone who dominates that conversation, and how maybe the facilitator can work on having a way that everybody gets a little bit more of a chance, right? To
Mm.
speak. So that's where I'm going to like take it to the next level. Then there's the absolutely, I'm listening. I don't need to say anything. I'm checking my mindset. If I'm feeling, like I'm not worthy, that my stuff isn't worthy, that's, like in that space. So I personally might walk away, get myself set, get myself straight again. And then there's just those moments, that straight up moments. Like now you're the facilitator of something and it's happening, and that person's dominating and dominating and dominating and dominating and dominating the conversation. And, love to know how you would kind of rearrange that conversation.
So if someone's dominating the conversation all the time,
Hmm.
oh, I love those people. I find them so entertaining. That lady, she was kind of entertaining. It said a whole lot about her. And so for me, when someone's dominating a conversation, I have something to say. I'm like, oh, sorry, excuse me. Can I, let me just add something. You had a really great point. I just want to add something, and then I add, and if they dismiss it and keep going, it's okay. You can't take back what I just said. It's out in the air. So people heard it. Right? But people who dominate a conversation, I'm like, okay, great. I'll pick my time. As soon as they go to inhale, because they're ready to speak, I jump in. So it's
But
all
what I loved,
it's
I
about
think
timing.
you did, and there's two things that I heard, which is great. One is, that cue, that time of like that moment to jump in. but something really shifted versus the what I shared authentically about myself, which for me was you got to say, you were reflecting back like, hey, Regina, or hey, so and so, I heard you say, X, Y, and Z. So you're acknowledging them,
Yes.
showing them that you were listening, that what they said is of value. And then you're like, and I just want to add X, Y, and Z. When people feel heard, when people feel seen, when people feel acknowledged, it, like, I think shifts the energy. So sometimes all of that, like, occurring as dominating and taking over, all of a sudden, that's such a beautiful little shift, a little pivot, right? Then me being like, hold on for a second, right? From that way, being able to, like, hey, Regina, I heard X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And, this reminded me of, you know, this, because you made me be like, wow, like, she really got me. Like, I really feel gotten. And I think that's so important to the listeners. If you
Right.
guys, have ever had that situation, you know, um, or maybe you can practice. I think that's what I'm going to be walking away with and practicing this weekend as well. So I really appreciate that input and insight. It's brilliant. Thank you.
And there's one more thing. When you have people who are dominant, if you want to join the conversation and you found your in, listen to how that person was speaking. See, it becomes now, let's speak their language. If the person, everything they see is, well, I see and I understand, and this is how I visualize, and this is how I think, use that language back to them. They will feel a connection to you and allow you now to come into the conversation. And you no longer have to wait for the, you can just jump in freely because they're going to have that connection with you. It's about speaking people's language and mirroring them. Meaning, if they're standing a certain way, stand the same way. They're
Mm.
saying, I hear whatever they're saying, however they speak, you speak that same language. And it's not that, oh my gosh, but that's not who I am. But it's about making and building a connection because that's what a community is, right?
Yes.
Community, you build connection because we don't know another person's situation, but we know where we are with them right now. And so we want to be able to have that connection with them. If
Love it.
you want it. If you don't want the connection, then roll the hell out. We're like, okay, well, this was good, but I see Mary over there. I'm going to go say the hi to her. I haven't seen her in so long. So it was nice chatting with you. You can do that, right? But practice. I like to put myself in those situations where I have to practice. I have to listen to people that I really just want to be like, oh, gosh, I'm out. I can't with you anymore. But no, let me speak your language.
Ooh, that just, like, leaves me with this, like, thought of, and I think we've talked about this before, it's the uncomfortable parts of us.
Mm,
We are out to shatter limiting beliefs. And so a lot of that, getting to know yourself so well when you're like, why do I want to, like, piece out of this conversation? You know what I mean? Like, you're feeling it because all of that is that limiting belief. If we could
mhm.
stay silent inside the conversation because we aren't listening to anyone else. And by the way, I have to say this, disrupting. I am telling you guys in advance, pre recorded, we are having the loudest
I
thunderstorm
hear it.
in Florida. So I'm not going to apologize because God is doing God's work. I
That's
just want
right.
to let you know that this is an important conversation. This is what we have. This is how we've communicated. May this work for us tonight. And yes, in the background, when you hear a lot of crackle, it is South Florida is bringing it on tonight. And I love
Yes.
it. I love it.
Lexi and Josh are not bowling in the bedroom or downstairs or in the family room.
Yep.
That's lightning and thunder. I heard it, but guess what? I'm more interested in what you have to say. So those of you who are paying attention to the lightning and thunder, good luck to you. You're gonna miss some golden nuggets. Also, I think, sis, you are frozen. So it's also impacting the internet. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but the reality here is, and we lost her. The reality here is this: when you engage or you interact with people who feel they must monopolize a conversation, they may not know that's what they're doing. You do have a choice. You have the choice to speak their language so that you are involved in the conversation, or you have a choice to walk away. Walking away is the easy part. How about we stay and we practice some of the techniques that we talked about tonight. Just really and truly listening, because you don't know if that person's ever heard. Maybe they love the sound of their own voice, right? But let's try to offer compassion. Can we do that? All right, guys, we're going to wrap this up. I hope you all have a fantastic 4th of July. Enjoy the barbecue, enjoy the family time, though, because that's what holidays are all about. It's treasuring those moments with family. I want you to remember something. Together, we can rise and thrive. Till next time.